Which science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion. Otherwise, you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you?
Where you been?
Drunk.
Wendy, darling, light of my life.
What is your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death?
Yeah, so fuck off and die.
Pieces of cinema that we watched.
Yes, it's a very lovely, what'd you call it?
I said a nice high art piece of cinema that.
Oh yeah.
If you didn't know, this month by this movie is fun back to school teen comedies.
I know. It's like, school, sometimes it's just about the friends we made along the way, And
yeah, it's like we watched Mean Girls, then we watched like proto Mean Girls, Heathers. Yeah. Now we're watching like what are the most like 180 films from that kind of genre, but
yeah.
But I do think it does fit. It fits like a back to school theme, and this actually has a lot more like kind of forced heart to it that I didn't remember when because I saw this as young person.
It's got a lot of the high school drama, but with just more murder on a low budget island.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's all like,
yeah.
You were starting rumors about me. And...
You say low budget, and that's frustrating. I think that this promptly sits at a really nice budget for like 99 2000 when it was being
you're gonna have to tell me because
created and produced.
I feel like I could remake this as long as I had 40 people because it's like it's literally one shack and like 90% just jungle and a couple exteriors, a day for night exterior, and then like they hired some military guys for the one shot outside, and then anyway so you might be wondering what movie we're talking about now. So we're talking about the 2000 film, Japanese film, Battle Royale. Hunger Games.
Yeah. Well, what's funny? That's a quick factoid. I'll get in there right now, right off the bat. This film was optioned and bought by I don't remember what studio, whatever, American studio, but the U.S. was going to remake this in 2006, and it had a production hiccup. And that was like when they solidified the rights to Battle Royale. And then 2011, they started making, and it was probably years before that.
And the book definitely came out right before that,
exactly. And so when that was there, and then in like, I think it was 2011, 2012, so one of those years when Hunger Games came out, and then this, like, it kind of just like killed this in the water.
I never thought I'd say these words, but I kind of actually want to watch Hunger Games now.
Well, dude, no,
to compare it.
Yes, I personally think that Battle Royale and Hunger Games, it's like Battle Royale had the guts to be violent, but Hunger Games is a better structured film. And so I'm like, I wish they were together. Like,
the best of both to make the better movie. Yeah.
Right, of course. But, we can give you a quick synopsis.
Give me Jordan. He's been spending a lot of time practicing pronouncing these Japanese names, so he's gonna go ahead and run us through it.
Yeah. Quickly. Let's just start off. Yeah, I'm
quickly,
right.
please.
I mean, quickly.
Help me.
Your monocle?
Quickly.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering
you look like a Disney villain.
You're watching it quickly now.
Okay.
No, I'm just like I'm so bright. I don't know if it's this like it's just my monitor for some reason seems brighter and I just like feel either that or I'm wasting away.
Are you still recording in the dark and you just like doesn't your camera like compensate?
It does.
Like,
I have like one soft lamp, so if you're in my office it's like a very low gentle light. But you would never know it. I got like a
no, it looks like you're in a spotlight.
Oh yeah, I forgot we were recording a podcast here.
Let's get back
we're too easily distracted, bud.
I know you want a quick synopsis. I'm gonna give you like
quickly, please.
Good heavens. Okay. Basically, it's a junior high class in Japan. Okay, my God, it's in the future. There is a law passed called the Battle Royale, It's kind of vague. The whole reason they have it is to kind of
It's because
teach young kids.
It's because
a lesson.
unemployment was up like 10%, and they're like,
that's
my
right. Right.
God.
Right. It's kind of like in that purge vein where they're just like, we have to do this every year so that we can kind of like thin out our population, kind of population control / kind of just like obedience.
It does.
People in
It does
line.
feel like those damn kids kind of do.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Well, because that's more on a personal note of the main teacher. But anyways, this class like B or whatever has to class like 46. They have to go in and they're chosen for the battle royale, and it literally is just a group of it's like 40 kids stuck on an island. They're given provisions. They have 3 days. Last man standing. They just kill it. They have to kill each other.
And I was surprised how much like the battle royale video games it is, which this is obviously inspires it, where it has the map
100%.
that parts of the map become if you're in that part of the map when like when a certain time your necklace blows up, and I'm like. Yeah. Out of all these fucking battle royale games, how have they not made a battle royale game of just battle royale? Like I want to be a Japanese school student running around finding weapons, not having the necklaces explode my throat out. Like,
did you mean in a video game or in real life?
Either, sir.
But yeah. So that's literally it. Then naturally there's little like factions that build and friendships that get destroyed. And then there are these 2 rogue exchange students that show up. And later on, you find out that, like, one of the kids is just a cuckoo crazy psychopath who just wants to kill. That's his point. That's his whole thing. And then the other student, he's doing it to revenge, like, his girlfriend who was killed in the last battle royale. And, then your 2 main characters, they love each other, and it's happily ever after, and they have to live off the grid.
Yep, that's pretty much it. And there's a teacher that's really salty for some stuff that doesn't even really matter.
That doesn't, that was kind of like, it's kind of frustrating why the teacher was mad, but he just, I don't know. It's because his daughter.
Full disclosure, I don't know if you remember. So this is my first time watching this, but we did watch the director's cut. So I do have to caveat that any small, like, I feel like if I was going to make a theatrical cut, I would cut the backstory stuff about like that kid cutting the teacher's leg at the beginning and then that kid immediately dying, like one of the first kids to die. So it's like, it feels irrelevant. And so I'm just like, I just ignored it.
I want to know if the Requiem, those like little, those little just ending Requiem, there was like 3 little ending things. I wonder if those were in the theatrical cut.
I don't think so. Like the last basketball scene, I think was cut. Weird.
Yeah, the last basketball scene. It's like because it was all dreams. It was like one dream, then her dream when she's with the teacher on the beach again or whatever on the bank. I wonder if that was in. Because there was like a definitive end to this, and then it showed like a Requiem, and I was like, oh, weird, because it's like it ends with them on the ship. And it like does that huge, that the helicopter shot.
It's better because all the stuff of them in Tokyo or whatever, with like they're like just put a couple baseball caps on them. They're on the run. They'll be fine.
They'll blend in. It kind of works because it's like surveillance is low. It's 2000, so it's like
it works, but it's also just like they went back to get that special knife that doesn't matter. And then it's like the final shot's not even cool. It's just them like walking into like scurrying away into like a mall or something. It's fine. I don't know. It's whatever. Right. But
I mean, so you obviously can tell by Levi's tone that he's not thoroughly impressed. Which this is my second viewing, or maybe even this could have been like, honestly, this is one of those could have been like 5th viewing. I don't know. I watched this in like 2006 maybe.
I've definitely
2005. Chet and I were into it. So.
Chet had made me. I'd watched this drunkenly, at least in the background, at John's house, and so it's like, So there's some scenes that I was like were familiar. I was like, oh, okay, I've seen this scene, kind of. But I don't. I've definitely not seen this movie. This was my first time.
And this being like, I have watched this movie from like credit to credit, and watching this again, there was a lot of it that I was like, I don't really remember exactly. This kind of just seems like fumbling through the forest through most of it, and like there's no like solid Katniss to follow. There's no like one character, but it
it needed it
fine.
because it's like, you know, the boy and the girl are obviously the main focus couple, and then
Yeah.
Mr. Yellow Bandana, foreign exchange kid, kind of becomes part of their group. Like, that's obviously like the main group, but it's just it doesn't like I don't know. There's this. I don't want to say there's no stakes because there's obviously stakes.
Well, there's
But-
I think
but, like-
kids were just kind of getting picked off, and then like you would get to know maybe because there's 40 kids, and I would say you probably get 10 kids that are significant.
Yeah.
For it. The
Well,
rest
and
are
that's
fodder.
fine. Like, I don't want too many.
Yeah.
Because by the end, I was.
I even think 10 kids is kind of too much. I almost feel like it should have been like, 5 or 6. I liked when like there's a scene when, you were upset when he gets to the lighthouse, that kind of like you felt like that kind of killed the momentum for you a little bit. But I actually liked that group. It was kind of nice to see like a group that band together that are like, they're like, we're going to get through this, and then how fast they turned on each other.
No, that
I
is
like
interesting.
There's so many good scenes in this movie, but like the overall film itself.
Yeah. Because let me back
like-
it up. Because I did mention to you earlier, Bruce, I know we're not supposed to talk about the movie outside the podcast, but I did mention earlier when I saw you about it. But it's not that scene that killed it for me. It's just like, I don't know. So let me just walk
Or
you.
not
Let
that
me,
scene, but
let me just walk you through my experience. So this is my first time watching it, and I was having like a ton of fun. Like, it was kind of messy and all over the place, and it wasn't really what I was expecting fully.
I love the informational video. Amazing.
Yeah, I
Perfect,
love
spot on.
all the title cards every time it would say like the deaths, or like it would say like someone's like thoughts or poems or something cut to black on the title card. Like, I like that a lot. But for some reason, I just like it got to the halfway point, which was about the lighthouse scene thereabouts. Like an hour in, and it wasn't the scene exactly, but I'm just like, oh, I'm only an hour into this movie and I have an hour to go. I'm done. Like, I'm like I hit the point and I'm like, I get it. And I feel like I've seen everything this movie has to offer. And now I got to make it slog through another hour of this. Like, it should have been an hour long. You know what I mean? Like, it should have been an hour long.
I mean, kind of. It does have. It's just, and that's what I think is like they do like front load it. Like, there's so many people who die right. And I feel like that's natural. Like, it would happen quickly. Like, there was. I love that. Like, right when the second they all like get their bags. I mean, and that's the thing. There's so much stuff where I'm like, them getting all their bags and equipment, that seemed like so long. Like, it's such an.
They went through like every person.
All 40 kids got to get their bag, and it kind of works to show each character, and I think that's my problem. Is like it showed each character and who they were and how they took the bag. Totally represented who they were going to be out in the wild.
Yeah.
To have to kill, but then they were dead immediately, or there was no. There's just not. There wasn't enough with them. And I'm like, if we had like the core 5 or core 10 people take their bags, and then everyone else like march out really fast or something. I don't know. It just
Die
that
in
scene,
set
that scene was, like,
pieces or
it was, like,
something.
12 minutes long.
Yeah.
And it could have all been cut. Could have been like, here's your bags, and then like,
Well,
I don't know.
I think it comes down to it's like there's never any interesting payoff. So you get a dynamic. It's like very much in a bubble. So like, for example, there's several examples, but like there's that one kid that shows up that ends up taking the crossbow, and then he finds I don't want to reduce her to this, but it's how I remember, but the girl on her period that's kind of a badass.
I know. Yeah, right.
Oh no, it's not even her. It's some other chick.
Troubled one.
Yeah. Anyway, but like, no, it was some other chick. See, that's what I'm saying. It's like,
Oh, yeah,
they
right.
have like a huge exchange where he's like, I'm going to rape you. And then she kills him. And then the other chick, then the cool chick shows up, shoots her, and she like runs off and dies with some boy. And it's like, it's a very like long contained sequence, but it has no like, it doesn't drive anyone we care about. And there's so many times where it's like, oh, what's going on with these guys? Is this going to like interact with them to the main guys, or their paths going to cross? Like, what does it matter? But then it just like never matters. Like the guys, the one, because the most interesting characters to me was like the hacker kid and like all his buddies. He was like getting
sad that they didn't get more of that, more
So-
of them hacking them.
That's
Yeah.
kind of like the pentultimate how I felt about the flow of this movie, where it's just like they're like hacking, and he's like having them build these bombs and these Molotovs, and they're like, we're gonna turn it around on them, those old fucks. You know what I mean? We're gonna flip the system, bro. And he makes like the basketball hacker system, and then they're like making this super bomb out of like pounds and pounds of fertilizer, like they're the fucking, Timothy McVeigh or some shit.
Did you know that magazine that they're reading from is a legitimate like anarchist cookbook style?
Really?
It's like a 1970s like guerrilla fighter handbook that was to make. It shows you recipes on how to make
That's
like
amazing.
actual dirty bombs and stuff, like
But-
to make just like farm bombs or
Right.
whatever.
Well, it's like you think it's going to turn into this big thing, and I'm like, the whole time I'm like, oh, these guys are interesting. I want to see more of them. Like, what are they building up to? And then they all run out, and they just get shot by Mr. Machine Gun. And
if we have to get down to it, which you and we hate digital blood, and there's
so
much digital blood in this, and it does not hold up, which is fine, I guess. But whatever. I don't know. That was one thing that I kept being like, this digital blood is like exhausting.
See, I feel bad because I kind of have nothing but negative things to say about this movie, but overall I think I'll probably give it like 2.5 stars on Letterboxd.
Yeah,
because it's
fine.
like I did have fun with it. But I think I was just ultimately disappointed because not only with like the stories and was it too long, which again director's cut, so benefit of the doubt, but the violence, like this had a reputation sort of. Like, I remember being like, people were like, oh, Battle Royale. And when I was watching like Takashi Miike movies or whatever, or however you say his name, but it was like, Itchy the Killer is what I was expecting, for some reason. And then there was like 2 warnings at the beginning. They're like, this movie's super Japanese rated R. No one 15 admitted. It said like 3 times. And then every time they get shot, there's like not even any bullet holes. It's just like they get a little blood, corn syrup splashed on their white shirts. And it's just like digital blood, and then they're dead. And I'm like, oh, that wasn't even violent. Like, give me real violence.
For like 2000,
It's bloody. It's
like,
bloody, but it's not violent.
But I'm kind of disappointed because it's like I remember this being a lot more violent. I don't remember it being digital. So like that also is like a big, like watch this when you're like 15 or 16 and I liked it then. I liked it a lot more when I was younger watching this. And so it's like watching it now, I did notice, I'm like, oh man, there's like 2 or 3 really good, like violent graphic effects, like the slicing of the throats.
Yeah, that's good.
And, I don't know, the eyeballs, getting the eyeballs plucked out and stuff. There's good stuff. And I love like the beginning in the classroom with like the teacher and how he's like, I'm happy. He's like, I love having you all here. And he's like, don't talk. And then he like just kills that girl. Right
Dude, he knifes her right in the dome. That was fun.
Yeah.
See,
and it's like, that's not violent, but like, that's violent, really. But it's like not graphic.
It's not gory,
But it's shocking. I definitely like, I'm like,
yeah.
That, it makes sense. I'm like, if it kept that energy the first like for 30 minutes, if it kept that energy through the whole thing, because like, dude, she had the arrow through her throat and she's like walking up and she's like, what's wrong? And like, that is like, I'm like, oh, this is so.
That was great. That's why I was like,
great.
I was like giddy and nervous.
There's too much like, there's so much bullet spray that is the most random ballet of bullet spray, and it's not done in a good way. It's like it's like this. I think they're trying to like portray like that he's just kind of bonkers, because it's the bad boy, the exchange student that's crazy, and like how he shoots the gun, like it's like I get it's like reckless abandon, and like he's just doing it because he's invincible and he's crazy, but like they're just, I don't know, it kind of became like really just bullety spray and kind of like really bad editing around it, and I know, it bummed me out like watching this again, because I'm like, oh, there's so much potential to this, and it actually would be great to see it get, I mean, maybe not even necessarily remade, but just something similar to this.
I watched a remake
again.
that was like a little bit more focused, because he is like as kind of the main antagonist on the island. That's not like the island in the game itself. He's so one note in a way that's like so boring.
The largest threat, but yes, yeah.
I want him to be actual menacing, because he kind of is just like, he's like chaos, which in its own way is fine. But he just shows up and sprays his infinite amount of bullets everywhere. But I'm like, I would have been like, oh, if he is full psycho, like he goes to shoot a kid runs out of ammo, and then like has to fucking like actually take the kid's weapon and like stab him to death or something, like something to show me the psycho, other than it's just like I feel like they're like, all right, run and pretend you're shooting the gun everywhere, and then we'll just add the effects later.
Yeah.
Which was
And that definitely was it was budgetary and time restraint. They're definitely, but I think so, as much as we like poo-poo on this, and I think it's because we both can see like the potential, but one thing that I will praise this for that I actually think is like kind of crazy, there were no stunt doubles. Every kid did their own stunt. So
they actually like 10 of them actually killed themselves.
Yeah, right. Yeah, own stunts, jumped right off that. I think there is someone who jumps off the lighthouse.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm like, that's pretty cool to like find that out, and then to watch this movie with that knowledge. Like I learned that after I watched the movie, and so thinking about it, I was like, damn, there's some like pretty intense scenes, and like I think they, because everyone's like under 20 in this movie, so it's like kind of crazy. Like they do a great job when I like think about.
Well, it's fun, you know what I mean?
Teenagers doing this movie, and like I think it looks good. Like when everything else besides the digital blood, that really like. But when there is blood, or when they do an effect, and then they did squibs on some of the shots, and I'm like, it's such a bummer, because I'm like, I know it's another. They had money restraint, so it's like you can't do squibs for everything, because there's a lot of bullets being thrown around and a lot of people getting shot. But I kind of just wish that they like, because of that restriction, I think that's where, if this was made like in 1994, 1996, they wouldn't use digital blood, and then if they didn't have squibs, they would probably use a lot more like practical fighting, knives and stuff. Because I loved when a knife would slash, and then you'd see that blood streak, with the shirt ripped.
For sure.
Dope. I love that, because it's like it's practical, and it's just kind of, it's fun, because it's like it's totally like kind of anime-esque to me. I mean, that's and like there's this anime called Assassination Classroom, and it reminds me of this a lot.
John watched that.
I love that anime, and so like I was just kind of like, Assassination Classroom like does a really good job at taking because it's literally just like a battle royale.
Yeah.
But it's cool because you get the long format, so you get to watch. You get more invested in the kids and like the premise and that. So, but anyways, so it's like where I'm like, this would have benefited from either being a series or I don't know.
Oh, for sure. I don't know if we're just like, because we're filthy Americans and we're desensitized to guns, but it's just like, to me, like guns, like they're violent and intense, but they're just not scary. But yeah, so if every time like a knife or something, and it's like way more tense. Like, because was it when one girl like has to pull out the knife, and it's like every time there's like that cut, or she uses the sickle, like those are always like more edge of my seat moments than, and I think that's what makes me so bummed, because I have to talk through my emotions with this movie. I don't know how I feel about it until speaking about it here, but like it's like that's why I'm so bummed with like the psycho bad guys, because it's like nothing is like, that's not scary to me at all. Is just like he's like runs up the way he is. I know these days, I don't know, who knows, but it's like I guess it's because it's so cartoony.
I mean, gun violence is real, and I totally understand it. Like,
and it's actually scary, and I get it.
Right?
But.
No, clearly, and that. But I think the sentiment that I'm assuming from you, and what I feel is it seems like it's a restriction that they kind of put on themselves. Because of what they were working with, and how much like it's like they auditioned 6,000 people. It took them 6 months to whittle it down and to get the 40 kids. So it's like this is such a heavy production on the pre-pro that I can see them kind of being like I'm sure in the script they had a lot of ideas, and they were like, oh man, this is like it'd be great to do this, but then they probably came with their backs up against the limitations of who they had with them, and like, it's everything like that. Like it is. I think that's kind of unfortunate. And the director was like in his 70s, if not like.
Are you serious?
80s or something. This was like his second to last film or third.
That gives me a kind of a new light, like because it's like the one thing I was gonna say is this movie does feel youthful, and I said that about Heathers, right? Where it's like I like that it's kind of messy and kind of raw. When you're dealing with this kind of subject matter of like these young teens and like violence and angst and hormones and blah, blah, blah. Like, and this movie has that. Like, it's kind of raw and messy, and that's kind of what I like about it. Like, it's fun, it's kind of goofy, but also
It feels
violent.
like the kids, because the kids like it's that classic thing where like the groups of them would be together to shoot, and they'd shoot for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And that it feels like that, but it also like it was so broken up because there were so many people, it was a whole class. But when they were together, they would do a lot of like it was collaborative, and that's something that I really respect, and I like. The movie does feel, like you said, youthful, but it feels like fun. Like they were kind of like in there, like let's try this in the moment, And so that's what's so hard about this kind of movie.
It is. Well, we've said we should have a specific category because we do have movies of like, this isn't that great of a movie to sit down and pay close attention to, but this is a perfect background at a party movie. You know what I mean? Like, it's fun, and when you catch it in bites, and like you don't have to get invested in like the characters, because it's like, it's nice to see them just survive and everything, but it's like, and it's like, the main character, Mr. Pan Lid Boy, he like him and about his dad's suicide and him trying to like cope with that, and then like, but I would like to see more. He's like confronted with all his like friends committing suicide also, because it's like obviously a lot of them choose to kill themselves instead of participating in murder, which I think is an interesting like mindset to come to, and I'm glad they touched on it. But I wish there would have been more, because it's like him with his dad too. You know what I mean? Like his reaction there, but so I don't know.
That definitely like got me at the end when it just I don't know. I mean, they tried to I felt like there's times where I'm like, oh, they're creating this bond really well. But then at the end, when they're faced with the teacher and he like flashes to his dad, and then he kills the teacher, and then when the teacher gets up and like answers the phone,
let's talk about that, because
it made me like,
what's happening?
I get what they were going for. I get it. Like they're going, yes, but it doesn't translate well to film. Like they're going for this like he has like this drive and this passion, which doesn't. It's like, it seems very surface level, but then he gets his one scene of humanity before he dies, where he answers his phone to his daughter, right? I think, or something, and then
I thought like wife or girlfriend, because he's literally like, I don't give a shit anymore, like
right, and like, but I know I swear it's like a daughter or something.
It might be. Well, that whole scene, I was like, what? Why? Like, I'm like, why? Like,
they did that a lot. I can't even remember what podcast or what episode. Oh my gosh, what movie it was. But if somebody out there in podcast land remembers, way back in the day, there was a movie that was super silly because people kept dying like that, where they'd be like, oh, I'm dead. Like, and they would just like fall, and like they would get like this perfect curated monologue right before they died. And like they did that in this movie with like almost every death, like every single person who died. It would be like they would get to hold somebody in their arms, and they would get to say a really long, like, don't forget to turn the oven off when you get home. Remember, I loved my mom. I don't know, you die.
It's like his thing of humanity at the end. Like, that's where I was like struggling, because I'm like, okay, the yellow headband boy, he's like, no, just kidding, I'm betraying you. And then it's like, no, I'm not actually. I was just psyching them out. But then the teacher's like, no, I kind of know that they're going to do it and survive. And because when they all come up, he's like, oh, I'm proud of you. Like, all three of you banding together and beating the system. But also, right, if it wasn't for me, like, you wouldn't have been able to succeed in doing that. But then also squirt gun. And then, I don't know. Like,
yeah, because it's
those angles. I don't know what I don't understand it, because it's like I was literally like, why? Like, what?
There's not a direct focus on those three being redeemable. Like like they're not. I don't know. I mean, I guess the fact that like I'm pretty sure that girl doesn't kill anybody, right? She never kills, not even on accident or anything.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure too. And then the kid only kills the one dude by accident with the axe.
Which I was kind of confused if he did it by accident or not, because of the girl who saw him do it was like weird, and then she was gonna poison him. I don't know,
which is so funny that she's like, I can't believe you'd murder someone, so let me murder you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
I guess
again,
that's the hard part is that there's such a love thing woven through this. Like, and that was something that I'm like, I wish there was a little more focus on that, because there was like so many people who are like, I've secretly loved you, and now we're put in this tense situation, and this is like my true nature's coming out, because there's like the one dude to Go-Go who was like, oh, like we're never gonna die and you're a virgin, let's bang, and then he dies somehow, or I don't know. It just like, I don't know. It's weird how
if he wasn't a
would
creep,
have
I think
this
that's an
character.
interesting angle. You know what I mean? Of like, I was like,
Well, sure.
when they did that, I was like, oh, that makes sense, because it's like, a bunch of ninth graders, definitely some of them would be doing that. You know what I mean? Like,
but that's the thing is, like, if they're not like explicitly just banging, they're gonna be like, their emotions are gonna be running wild because they're in this really tense situation, and that's kind of what they tried to portray. I feel like with people like being jealous and upset, being like, you love him and I've loved him, you don't appreciate him enough, and I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna be violent. But I mean, I think this movie is just trying to say, like, if you're violent begats violence, and I don't know. But it also just like, it also feels
I don't
like shallow. See, I feel man,
it's an enigma, because it's
really
like, I don't
like
know, man. Like, this movie, I'm torn between, like, is it trying to say something? Like, is it trying to be like, because it is like kind of satirical, right? Obviously, but like,
right.
in like, what is it satirizing exactly? And then also, like, it's like a comment on like authoritarianism and like, but is it? Like, I don't know. Like, it's a lot of that for me, where it's like, it's this, but like, I don't know, or is it? Like, it just seems like it exists just to exist, sort of. I don't. I would be interested in reading the book. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. That's definitely
this.
I hope they focus.
This podcast episode is as unfocused as this movie, so it's appropriate.
I mean, all of our episodes. Let's be real.
To be fair,
you guys come and listen to us because you like our gab. You like our rambles.
I know. I feel like this movie more than any
Cinema Ramble.
I know. Dude, I feel like before this movie, more than any movie in recent memory, like, it's like, I feel like I always had something to say, kind of, and like, there's like an opinion, but I'm like, I just like don't even have an opinion about this movie. Like, it was fun, but it was a fucking mess, and it's like kind of dumb, but also like kind of cool, but also like bad, but also
top 10 films. So
really.
Yeah, you better. I mean, that was. I'm sure he probably just said he really liked this film, because he got to talk to the director before he died, and then was like, "I love you," and then he used one of the actresses from this in Kill Bill. She's Go-Go, the girl with like the chain, the ball.
Oh
and
yeah,
the chain.
Yeah,
Kill Bill, and so. She was like the one in the tracksuit in this movie.
Oh yeah, okay, that makes. Oh yeah, okay, I recognize.
And I really liked. It's like, that's what sucks, is like, there's so many scenes, like her scene when she's like running with her boyfriend or whatever, with her love interest. But it just gets it's so confusing. She's like running with her love interest, and they do that really sick fade where she's like having this kind of daydream, and then she's like, oh shit, she's like, it was like a real thing that was happening where she was training with him, and then she realizes that she's in real life. But then when she's like kind of on her deathbed, he shows up, and she's like, is this a dream? And I'm like, where's he been the whole time? It was just so weird. It's so weird.
And that
Things
was
like that.
That's what I'm saying. And that's how we were introduced to her, pretty much. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, she was some random face in the 40, but then it's like, she's running along, and I'm like, am I supposed to know who this is? Am I supposed to know what this relationship is?
But I think they do a good job at building, at like being a really contained scene that builds a relationship. But then it fizzles out, or it just becomes like moot. And
Well,
then you're
that's
just
what
like,
we were saying. It's like, not in the scenes aren't independent enough to feel like vignettes or something, which I kind of wish they were, because it's like the lighthouse scene, like you said, it's like this contained group that is interesting, but it's like kind of too quick to matter. And also too long to be interesting. Like, I don't know. Like, this movie is an enigma for me, man.
I'm bummed. I think my biggest thing is, structurally they could have saved this if they went a 3-day arc. and that was it. So it's like you even, I mean, you need the like the opening to have them go on the field trip and stuff, and like, but even with that, they like, you don't really need that. They did so much. They showed them go on the field trip, and then that was such a large part of the movie of saying, "Oh, I can't believe he got kicked out of school, but then he was able to come on the last field trip." You know, whatever. It's like they didn't like do the flashback. It's like you almost didn't even need the beginning. You could have just been like day one, and you could have started with them in the forest and then done flashbacks to build what's happening, and then do day two, and then have that second act, and then day three, it's a climax where a lot of kids die. I feel like that would have structured better because like the opening confused the fuck out of me. Where I'm like, it must have been like a different battle royale because the girl who survived at the end, you know, and like I didn't like halfway through the movie, I was like, who is she here? And I'm like, she's not. I was like, right? I was like,
I don't think that's her, right? And like, I don't think that's.
I kept being like, she was younger and it looked like she had like a teddy bear or something with her, and
braces
it looked like she was
or
in a different uniform.
Yeah,
I swear it was a different uniform. But anyways, I just like, so I'm like, okay, so she's not part of it. So I was like, oh, okay, that's just the beginning. But it was almost like it was pointless. You didn't need that. I don't, you know. So that's.
Here's the summation, though. For the last 30 minutes, this has been our overall thing. We've both sounded like this. Yeah, but like, what? I was kind of confused, but like, what was the point of that? I guess it was sort of cool, but huh? You know, and like that is the whole movie for me, and I don't know how to react to that because it's like I feel like it's like cool but like dumb. Like it's like a lot of it's really unnecessary, like because I would say to like quote unquote save this, like I say with a lot of movies, I'm like, okay, you could either lean into interesting characters and have an interesting character arc and interesting character dynamics, which this doesn't really have, but it kind of tries but kind of fails in my opinion, or, you know, not worry about that so much and just make it like a cool edited movie, which it kind of tries, but also doesn't really succeed in either. And then it's just like, it does, I don't know, like it kind of tries to do everything, but like kind of half-assed, and it ends up kind of coming together in a fun package, but like, I don't know if there's anything to dig into it. Like, I'm like, did I miss something? Am I dumb? Because it's like, so much of it feels like it should be something more. You know what I mean? It always feels like there should be more to it, but then there's not, but it like pretends like it's deeper than it is, or that there's more going on than it is actually going on.
I wonder.
I'm curious about the book, honestly, because I heard the book is good, but a lot of people really like this movie too, but I could see it being like a lot of nostalgia because there's not really another movie like this, I don't think. Like this kind of this vibe, but dude, also
we've
seeing this in 2000, I bet would have been a lot of fun. You know, if I was a hot.
Well, dude, 2003 they did a battle royale 2. Oh,
I saw that,
and I bet it's a lot better because it's cool. Because
is it?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know from like the stills that I'm seeing in the description. I'm like, oh, this could be fun, and it got a higher budget, and so. Same director, but he died during the production.
Oh.
So
same director and higher budget. Interesting.
Yeah, but he dies halfway through the movie, so a different director takes over to finish it. So that could be interesting to see a different director kind of take it over.
Well, now I'm interested to see, because this did set up a lot of like, as far as I know, is like one of the first main ones to kind of do this thing. And it set up a lot of tropes to the fact that there's an entire video game genre that is way closer to this than I would have thought. Where it's like you kind of just dropped in and you have to find random gear.
It takes its like the premise from this. Like it's definitely it was in the workshopping room when they were developing the game. But
we should do a month of like killer type games like Saw and like all these like Cube, and you know what I mean, like all those. I mean, obviously maybe we'll just do a couple for Horrortober or something, but
yeah, maybe because I'm trying to think could we do a full month? Are there 20 movies that are
I bet there are of death game type movies, right? Like
Room was kind of fun,
like Running Man, Death Race, like any type of game that involves your life as the stakes. Like, I think is kind of a fun premise that is like, I'm trying to think what the best executed version of it is.
I think Squid Games. probably
Squid
actually,
Game does it good. Yeah,
Game
that's a
is
good
probably one of
point.
the best.
Yeah,
That's one of the best battle royale type. I mean, this is called battle royale. It's named after all the other video games and stuff.
That's
and
what's
other
crazy.
games
It's
are
like
called battle royales.
the
because of
genre
this.
around this, which is wild to me because I'm like, but again, it's like this movie's not that bad because it's fun. Like
No.
from a critical brain. I guess that's why it's hard because it's like doing a podcast and we're like talking about movies and like getting our opinion on them, and it's like I can enjoy a movie just for what it is and just have fun with it, which is how I feel about this movie. I do think it was fun, but it's like for the podcast and everything, it's like I'm watching it with like a slightly deeper intent. And because of that, I feel like it broke me. Like this movie just kind of broke me, especially because, like I said, in the back half, I just completely lost interest. And then everything that would happen,
Yeah.
especially by the end with like the teacher and everything, I'm like, what? Huh? Why? Like everything, like a lot of things just happened without having like a why. And maybe that's just this punk rock old man, Japanese old man, just being like, "Fuck you and fuck the system. I'm a millennial too," you know. Maybe, but because I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe he's like so accurate to the book that we'll read it and be
I'm
like,
curious.
oh, okay, be like, whoa,
Well,
there we go, okay.
Because
So,
a book has to try harder because a book doesn't have the benefit of digital blood. But
true,
you know,
or just like
all the
yeah,
shooting and stuff, like you have to have characters to care about, or I'm not gonna. If you're just switching randomly, I'm not gonna care, even less.
Yeah.
So I am curious about the book. I wonder how the translation is. You mentioned earlier something about the budget because this movie did seem very low budget.
Yeah,
to me.
let's just get in a money minute. Let's move it along here.
Yeah,
4.5 was their.
I mean that's not too
filming
bad.
budget. But I mean, you think about it, like they're paying everybody something, and if there were 40
There's
like
enough
members.
cast. Yeah, there's enough
We're
going
like-
on.
And they're like they were there for like a lot of principal photography. Like it honestly has a lot of the film because like the first hour is basically all the kids essentially. So which I mean as they shoot around us, it's probably only like 20 full minutes with the whole cast. But anyways, so 4.5 I think what they did with 4.5 is really good. But it grossed 30 million, and that is pretty good. That's pretty good.
Good. And again, I know that this sort of has a little bit of a cult following. You know what I mean? And it's kind of a
totally.
cult movie. So I'm bet you home DVD. Because again, I've known people who had this DVD.
I know, right? I can't even. It's like I think I had to have just watched it. Chet probably introduced me to it, or I was like maybe through. Probably through like Kill Bill. So I probably saw it around 2004, 2005 when Kill Bill came out, and then looking up actors in that and movies and in this around that time I had to have heard about this movie. It's like rumored.
Yeah.
It's definitely has that, like it has that, and I think that is a bummer. Like I swear on the version I watched, it does not have all the ratings. Like when I first watched this, how it's like, this has been banned in 1,000 countries and like every
That's what I was
everybody, like,
expecting. I was expecting like
it had.
oh,
I don't remember it having that. I remember it having it's violent because it's children, So that's like I remember that premise being like it's a group of junior high kids that kill each other.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, whoa, cool, And when I watched it, there was not the rating, all those like rating.
Well, and the
things.
suicides are like kind of upsetting. You know what I mean? Like seeing.
Oh yeah.
Like I do think that was an interesting aspect. Like
for sure.
not only jumping off the cliffs and stuff because of the way those are shot, but like
Dad.
seeing the dead
Dad's
bodies
brutal.
hang. Oh yeah, the dad and everything.
That is
Like
brutal, yeah.
that's why I'm like those that were more affecting and like about like youth violence and everything. Like is that what it's trying to say?
And I really
is it trying
I really
to give
love-
me a lesson about youth violence, Jordan?
Well, and what's frustrating though is like the Requiem, the last one. So I don't even know if it's in the theatrical release, but
Yeah.
the Requiem when he's like she's with the school teacher and she like I can't remember what she says, something like death is scary or whatever, and he's like what do you tell somebody, what does an adult tell a child at this moment? And that's how it ends. And I was like I like that like that last little, I mean, and that's what this movie does is it's like one scene I can be like this is really good. There's like one scene is awesome. But then when I'm like, I'm going to think about this movie and I'm going to be like, it's kind of just beige. It's just kind of there. I don't know. Digital blood, too much digital blood. Like,
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, as soon as I started getting invested, then it kind of just doesn't like, you know, there's that kid that tracks that girl that he loves with the tracker, then they just die, and then
I think that's what it is. I'm saying
like
there's too
that's
many-
yeah, that's
there's too
interesting.
many.
It could have been interesting, but it didn't do anything with it. And it, like again,
Right.
the hacker kids with the bomb, that just kind of like
Or the girls, those girls on the hill with the blowhorn. One had like a blowhorn as a weapon, and
Yeah.
like it sucks because it's so sick when they're like, "Come here, you know, let's all band together," and then they get killed by the psycho,
and then
as
just
she's
brrr.
screaming. Well, as she's screaming for like, she's like, you know, gasping for her last breath of air. He like uses the microphone to like have her project, you know, her like dying cries. And I'm like, oh, that's brutal. That's awesome, but I don't know. It's kind of, but it's like it's all for naught because it's just like, oh, they have to keep going. Like, and you know, it's I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. That's all. I just unfocused. But then there'll be some really tight scenes. So yeah.
Yeah, it does feel like it would have been like I would have been interested to see like this is like an anthology series, you know, like if they rebooted this on like
Or
Netflix
as an anime.
As an anime,
Oh.
I bet you there's like a manga or something of this.
There's I wouldn't be surprised.
Guaranteed. But like, you know, a 30-minute or 22-minute episode of a fucking just one group. It focuses on them. There's like 6 episodes, and they like kind of connect, but it's like you get each chunk. Like this could have been like obviously that's like perfect world type stuff, but like
Oh, I know, right?
You know, it's
we're,
like-
we're here to reimagine. That's because I think it'd be sick if you had the main focus of the structure, like of those kids blowing up the structure, and then like each episode is, you know, structured around that, like that main event happening, and then like the last episode kind of you know shows what happens at the aftermath if he'd actually. Because I was really bummed. I wanted them to like get the truck over there and at least kind of blow up some of the building, or like I don't know.
I understand
It
that's
just,
probably
like, I think that's budgetary, yeah.
but like it was so anticlimactic where it's like this super hacker kid that's like figuring everything out. He's coming up with a bomb, and he literally runs out there and he's like,
pulled it.
"Oh no!" And he just like
yeah,
every
him-
other character, like 25 of these kids just got machine gunned to death. 10 of them got killed themselves. So it's like,
Yeah.
anyway, I got a couple Reddits.
Ooh, I'd love to hear from these beautiful people.
So Leo Shreds Wheat says, I remember coming across this with my roommates back in college. It was after the first Hunger Games movie, and I think before the second one had come out. Those kids were kind of brutal from what I remember, and it was interesting seeing a different play out of what was, in ways, a similar story. We'd wonder if the author got her inspiration from these films. There's 2. It's a decent movie if memory serves, and definitely worth a watch. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
it's.
I know. I really do wonder if it's like because it totally tracks Hunger Games.
I looked that up, and it was like there was some legal stuff a little bit. Well, because I mentioned this movie to Mary, to my wife, and I was like, you know, because I'm like, hey, you don't want to watch this with me. I doubt it because it's, you know, subtitled, so fuck me. But and I was like,
He loves to read, but he hates watching subtitled movies.
I know.
Explain it to me. Make it make sense.
I
Mary.
know. I'm like, oh yeah, Battle Royale. It's like this and blah blah blah. And I was explaining it. And I'm like, yeah, it's like before the Hunger Games. And she's like, well, the Hunger Games kind of set that genre. I said, no, it fucking didn't. I'm like, this came out first, and like there was a book and everything, and you know they probably got to the idea independently. I don't know if they ripped it off the chick that wrote it or whatever, but. And obviously the Hunger Games became way more popular and kind of shifted the genre to more of like a young adult, more dystopian, because this could have leaned more into the dystopian. I was like, it just kind of in the subtitles at the beginning are like, you know, the economy's bad, so we did this law and get over it. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, obviously, like you said, like the Hunger Games has got more of a concise, like it fixes honestly a lot of the problems, but then it takes a step back by being YA. In our opinion, like make them, you know, I want them to continue to be 15 and then like with tons of blood.
Right. And I liked Hunger Games because there's less guns. They kept it in that like, this is like,
well, guns are
bow and
overpowered.
arrow.
That's the thing. They're super overpowered. And so they should be there, but like to a really limited capacity.
Well,
and that's why I was
in this movie in Battle Royale, people who like their weapons that they got, it like, I kind of wish that it was. See, like this needs to be an anime because Assassination Classroom's kind of like that, where like people get they have like their abilities and like their strengths and their weaknesses. They all work together to like better each other and whatnot. And it's like in this, it's like there's one time where he uses the pot lid and it helps him, and it's like funny, and you're like, oh, that's cool. Like he has such a disadvantage, but yet it did save his life, and so it's kind of like, oh, it did work out, And I kind of almost in a Saw scenario where like these things happen in Saw where they're like little significant things that they have to like overcome. I don't know. It's weird. I wish that like everyone had less definitive weapons, like a fucking machine gun, or like it's like somebody got like.
Well, I wish they would have been switching it up more and like taking things off each other and like doing all that, because it's like I don't know what half the kids that like killed themselves what weapons they had, but
right.
It's like that's what I liked about the one thing I liked about the main bad guy, the one kid, is that he was kind of collecting other people's weapons even though he mostly only used his machine gun, but it's like he got the katana, he got the bulletproof vest, he got some grenades. He got the pistol to have as like a backup. Like he kind of like built a little arsenal and became like this little one-man army.
The grenade in the head was pretty cool.
that was fun. But that's what, again, this movie, like I'm like, oh, neat. Like I feel like that it's like in Futurama where they're like checking the brain waves, and like they're like, wow, their brain waves went through the roof when you did that thing. And that's why I feel like this movie was for me, where I'd be like, what is happening? And I'm like, huh, okay, that was kind of dumb. And then I'm like, oh, this is cool. That's neat. Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah. And then it goes back to like wrestling, and you're like, okay, well, fine.
I got one more read. So,
from our boy.
Yeah, from my boy. Clones for People 2 says, first watch, this was a film that was really popular in my little niche in school, and there was a bootleg DVD of this going around, but I never got to see it until now. For the first half of this movie, I was loving it. It was funny and sharp and witty. I was enjoying how the characters were being built, and it had some Clockwork Orange vibes. I could see that, yeah. But something happened in the middle, and it just lost me. The story becomes too convoluted for its own good. I stopped caring about the characters as much. I found the flashbacks were slowing the pace and energy of the film, and it kept giving backstory to characters that were close to being knocked off. Overall, this went from an 8 to 10 to a 6 to 10 for me. I think it would have been better if it dropped the backstory flashbacks and just focused on the craziness on the island. But I can see why this is a cult classic. Why do we have a budget?
We just read Clones for People 2, and then we just base our opinions off of what they've said.
Well, that is what I know. I didn't read it. Usually I read it and comment to it before.
I disagree because I like doing the flashbacks. I even like the flashbacks to people who are insignificant and before they die. But it just, there's so many other, it's like
pick a lane though, pick a lane.
Exactly.
Like,
totally. Like it doesn't, and too many people. Like if they did it for 10 people more concise, I would have.
Well, if they committed to kind of doing that and then just spend less time at the school, or at the building with the military guys and the teacher. Cause it's I didn't really the teacher was interesting, but we got nothing of him really. He'd show up. Right. He showed up with the umbrella and everything, and I'm like, okay, what's the angle? What's their relationship?
Yeah, they made it where it's they didn't even. I wish they made it more where he was a good person and he got beat down by the kids, and then that's what made him jaded. But it was one incident, and then he just was he's if you yell at a kid, you get fired, and that's why he wants to kill all kids. It's I don't know. Anyways,
he definitely screams why can't we spank kids anymore vibe. You know what I mean? Right. It's just
yeah. And I wish he'd lean into that more, where he's just this is what my day, and then the younger kids could have been well, grow up, old man, whatever, things change. Or the future's now, old man.
Yeah, because honestly, some of the flashbacks, I liked humanizing them, because it's even the kid that is completely inconsequential is kind of the glue holding the two main characters together that dies early on. It's the flashback when they're we were in the orphanage together for a while after my dad killed himself, and he's they're just hanging out, and he's oh, I got a crush on this girl, and he's just reading manga, and he's playing guitar, and
they both kind of like the same girl, and I'm oh, I like this, but then that happened, every single kid was I like this girl too, and I like this guy, and you stole this guy from me.
Wait, which girl? The
girl that already died. That's the thing too.
Is it tracksuit girl, or is it what's the I don't know.
Yeah, was a badass girl who I don't remember how she dies. Like, and it sucks because it's almost like it's not unceremoniously enough.
She gets
to
killed
where,
by
like,
Machine Gun Guy. Everyone gets killed by Machine Gun Guy, which is lame. Or her.
Yeah.
She kills a fair amount of people because it's like she's resourceful and like cunning. You know what I mean? And she was honestly the best character.
Yeah, right.
In my mind.
That's what I mean. I think the core characters that you're like, oh, these characters are cool, and they make it farther in. I wish they were more of a focus, and I think that's kind of it. That's how I'm gonna end.
I'm done talking about this movie.
Yeah.
That's Battle Royale. I will put it on when I throw in one of my ragers.
Yeah,
you know, just in the background.
I'm gonna watch the sequel now because I've
know,
seen this.
I'd check out the sequel. I want to watch. See, if anything, this has tickled a little something inside me. I want to watch more movies like this because there are quite a bit of like death game movies, and and now I'm looking for the perfect one because I really like it in theory, but I feel like everyone I've seen has some sort of fatal flaw. So maybe this is
Squid
part
Games.
this is how this is how
again.
I guess. But even Squid Games left me wanting, kind of. But I guess this is why I became a creator. You know, it's like if it doesn't exist, I guess I got to make it.
Yeah,
you know,
I know. Make it.
I'm gonna
video
write that
game and
next.
go. That's what I want to do, man. That'd be sick.
You should. Anyway, I don't think the poll's over yet, so I don't know what we're watching. What we're watching this next week, but it's
I bet I can guess.
It's probably gonna be Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but everybody wants some sneaking up on it. So it's close. We'll see. It'll be one of those two. So that'll be the last week for school movies, and then we're going to be way deep, neck deep in fucking horror movies next month.
Okay, and
I'm literally not ready.
This is the first year out of like the 4 years that we've done this where it's going to be rough.
I'm scared.
It's gonna be rough.
I'm frightened, but I'm also excited.
My body is ready, but
my mind isn't.
I'm spongy and bruised.
My emotion, my
body's willing.
my emotional state is not ready. I gotta get a therapist and talk it over before we start.
Well, yeah. And if you can't afford a therapist, come to Coldest Stone Knowledge podcast and listen to us talk.
Yep.
And come
to the Reddit
and tell me your problems, and we'll answer it about film. I don't. We'll give it. I'll recommend like some sad films to watch.
Yeah. Specifically, I'm gonna make a post. Go tell us what horror movies we're gonna watch. I said it last week, but I'm saying it again. I'm making a post this weekend. Horror movies. It's on, and
preferably 90 minutes or under.
We're gonna make it. We're gonna do it, guys. We're all gonna do it. So, Cindy, thanks for listening. Clones are people too. Thank you. Yeah. See what movies are going to be next week. It's going to be one of those. So, yeah, that'll be fun. And then horror movies, and then westerns, which I'm excited.
Patreon, because we're gonna have a Patreon bonus for Horrortober. So
yeah, I think that's the route we're gonna go. So
let's tell you, jack-o'-lantern that looks like a cool spooky ghost or something. All right,
a spooky ghost. Okay, bye now.
Goodbye.